So Rick Santorum was on Fox News and he was discussing income inequality. It's something that he's really concerned about. So what can we do to help take people out of poverty? Listen to his interesting idea.
I mean, in the book, Blue Collar Conservative, I actually spent a couple of chapters talking about the importance of the family unit for the economy. I talked about this in the last campaign, and actually reports have come out, income inequality has been the big buzzword for the Democrats, but liberal study after liberal study has come out and shown that, gee, the most important factor as to whether people do well economically is whether they're in stable married relationships or not. And in fact, the more people who are in those relationships, the less poverty there is, the more opportunity there is. So
well,
even the left now recognizes
let's say if your mom and dad are the same sex, is that a stable environment?
Well, I'd rather argue the issue as to whether we should be promoting, and I believe we should be, promoting the institution of marriage, of men and women staying together and raising children. That's going to be best for children. Would you apply the same
for men and men staying together, or women and women staying together? This will come up in a race, Senator.
Here's what I would say, that what we need to do is have the father and mother of the children raise those children. And that means the man and woman bringing to a child what a man and woman can bring, and that's what we should be focused on. If states want to do what states want to, if states want to do what they want to do, I think we need to focus on the vast majority of the people who are going to be in man and woman relationships, raising children, and reclaim those relationships.
So there's Neil Cavuto challenging Rick Santorum on the issue of same-sex marriage, which I honestly did not see coming.
No.
But I love that he would not let it go. There were follow-up questions he really wanted to know. And honestly, if Rick Santorum is genuine and sincere in the argument that he's making, that people should be in long-term, stable, monogamous relationships, then he should be supportive of same-sex marriage, especially since he thinks that that's going to take people out of poverty. Which, by the way, I think that that is one of the most ridiculous arguments for getting people out of poverty. That is not a good solution, especially when you consider that people will be dependent on one another to be financially secure. What happens if they want to get a divorce? What if someone is stuck in an abusive relationship? They're now dependent on that person for financial stability, and that's not a good thing.
This is correct. Now, this is also a misnomer. They love to say that the best marker of good income would be you can stay married, you get out of poverty, get married, you get out of poverty. Okay, well, the highest marriage rates are very high in Appalachia. Mm-hmm. They also have very high unemployment. They have very high poverty. So it doesn't seem to correlate there. So what people really need, if you look at the correct studies, they show that people need economic opportunity, whether it's in a city like Detroit or whether it's in a rural area like Appalachia. It doesn't have anything to do with who's married and who's not married. What it has to do with is their economic opportunities, right? So that is bullshit. They love to say that because it kind of reinforces their religious meme. So what he's saying is that the problem with, let's say, like the poverty in America is that we have too many Bristol Palins in our country. That's what he's saying.
And another thing, going on the bullshit a little more, is the book is called Blue Collar Conservative, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Rick Santorum from 1986 to 1991 was a private practice attorney after graduating from law school. He then went to the House of Representatives from 91 to 95, then the U.S. Senate from 95 to 2007. There is nothing blue collar about
After
this
he got
man.
his, doesn't he have a master's?
Yeah, well, he might have a master's, like John Idarola. But he does, and then, this is the other Fox bullshit thing here, is they put him in a remote box there. That's what it's called when you look at somebody on television who's speaking to you from another city, and they have Neil Cavuto beside him. Neil Cavuto is asking Rick Santorum about whether or not a same-sex marriage home is a better home for a child. Rick Santorum has zero authority in that arena, and Fox News is giving him that authority and then allowing him to criticize it. It's just unbelievable. I mean, if you want to talk about propaganda, that is these little subtle things that it's not just the crazy opinions of Fox News or the very sort of provocative things that they say. It's these little subtle things, like asking Rick Santorum, as if he is the authority on anything, whether or not it's better to bring a child up in a same-sex home. Rick Santorum never has. He wouldn't know a thing about it.
It all depends on context. If you're discussing that on the segment and you're going to make a reference to recent scientific studies that prove that same-sex couples are just as effective as raising their children, then that's totally fine. But in this case, I didn't catch that. You're absolutely right about that. Another thing that I wanted to mention is, when conservatives make the argument that same-sex couples aren't going to be financially better than heterosexual couples. That's actually 100% wrong. Same-sex couples are less likely to have children, so that burden is something that they don't have to deal with, and as a result, they're actually wealthier than heterosexual couples.
What he just was the example he gave was that, like most conservatives, that when the facts don't support your pre-existing belief, you ignore the facts. And that's exactly, he's like, yeah, I don't want to talk about that because that's something that I don't believe in, and it's an uncomfortable reality. And we all know, as Stephen Colbert pointed out, reality has a liberal bias. So let's pretend, let's not look at that part of reality, let's ignore it, let's put blinders on. That's what we're good at. That's what religion teaches you how to think. That's why most religious people have flawed, fucked up thinking, just like Rick Santorum.
And let's also lie and say that we are blue collar.
Yes.
This is a man who for 25 to 30 years has put a tie on every morning, and that was after graduating law school. So, I mean, there's nothing blue collar about him. To call himself a blue collar conservative, I mean, that's, again, there you go, just sort of smoke in the mirrors.
He's a regular guy like Mike Barnicle, just a regular guy married to a bank executive. Just a regular guy like Mike Barnicle.